Earlier on, I spoke to Prosper Chitambara, who is an economist. I started by asking him what factors contribute to improve the ease of doing business for countries in Africa.
Well, I think there are two main factors that are critical in terms of ease of doing business. The first one is the institutional and the legal environment, the framework around the rules and the laws governing the doing business environment. That's critical. And of course, for a number of countries in Africa, that's been a major challenge in terms of, say, for example, the number of days on average that it takes for, say, a potential investor to get a license or a construction permit or even to get connected onto the national grid. So that's the institutional framework and environment. Then number two, the infrastructure, which is actually critical in terms of undergirding or supporting investments. So in most African economies, there's a huge infrastructure gap, and there's also a huge financing gap in terms of infrastructure. So I think for me, those two factors need to be corrected, to be looked at in order to enhance the doing business environment on the African continent in most African economies.
And just pecking on those challenges that you've talked about, how can African countries resolve these challenges?
Well, I think we need bold leadership to implement bold reforms to change the way we've been doing business, the way we've been doing things. And obviously that requires a leadership that's able to implement the right kind of institutional reforms to reduce a lot of the red tape, a lot of the bureaucracy that's actually within the doing business environment. Of course, also including the issues to do with corruption. Corruption is also a major limiting factor in most African economies in terms of the ease of doing business.
And what steps can private and public partnerships play in improving overall economy and the ease of doing business?
I think we've seen in some countries, actually, South Africa is a good example. We've seen the role of public-private partnerships. But I think for that to succeed, we obviously need the right legal and institutional framework to support public-private partnerships, and also obviously the right kind of incentives. And we also need to ensure that there is a greater macroeconomic stability in most of our economies, because for me that's the biggest incentive for the private sector to come on board